So, another Nico, welcome from my side. I'm an old AAC fan since the very beginning, I think. I'm very glad that I can accompany you. We have a small technical problem, I guess. Jetzt geht's irgendwie automatisch. Oder? Mal gucken. Also, a very warm hello from Stefan from Berlin. He couldn't come today, but he will join us next week. So this is actually not a super big presentation, I just have to try again. If not, I flip forth and back again. So it's just to show you how we came across this issue about reusing of department stores. Actually, I think for the time being in GMP, our German projects are more than half are reuse, refurbishment, extension. So this is a very big issue for us. We gain a lot of expertise, but we think it's also a very good approach to tackle the theme of sustainability, simply to try to use as much of the existing buildings as possible. And this was actually a so-called urban planning idea competition, something a little bit strange because it doesn't really result in a plan, but this is in Düsseldorf, in the west of Germany. This is the Opera House of Düsseldorf, which has been built after rebuilt on old foundations after the war by Paul Bonatz, and it's now after 70 years really in a marode situation. It has to be refurbished. It's too small to handle modern events and so on, so they have to rebuild this opera house. They had a very long public process what they expect, because if a city, this is something like maybe €1 billion, building something new with all the costs involved, all the cities say, okay, if we take so much money in our hands, we should do more than just rebuild a new opera house. So they had a very long public process and came out with this idea to build the opera of the future, nothing less. But the idea was that it's more or less a 24/7 public cultural space for the city. So very low threshold, so people can go there, not visiting an event, because there is a very broad offer for all ranges of people in the society. An open house, that was the idea, to even attract tourists and so on. So something very different maybe from especially what this old opera house was. The program was classical an opera, but actually with a very big modern stage. It's much bigger than the existing one. They want a second stage, a smaller one, so-called studio stage, and lots of rehearsals for orchestra. They also have a ballet troupe and, of course, rehearsal stages. So a quite big program. And the problem is, this is actually the existing site. You can maybe see this slightly gray building. This is the existing opera house, and the darker drawing is only the auditorium and the stage, so without any back of the house, lobby and so on. So actually the site, to be honest, seems too small. And these red dots, they are protected trees. It's a very traditional, also an heritage park in Düsseldorf. So this, actually the task of the competition was to examine two different plots. The one is the existing one here in the, here along this so-called Hofgarten, this park. And the second one, which is the one of our interest, is this one more in the city center, in the very urban context. The existing site is within this park. It's very close to Königsallee. This is a very high-end exclusive shopping street. So this is a real tuxedo opera location. So this is really how you think, or one thinks that an opera should be like. So I quickly just show what we did. No, first, so this is the one side, and the other side is actually here in this urban context. And this is very similar to Mönckebergstraße, maybe not as grand, even a little bit more small scale, a little bit more shabby. But this is a regular German shopping street, or has been a regular shopping street because as well Kaufhof, this is the site, and Karstadt, they closed down these shops. So this is a very common phenomenon in Germany or all over Europe, that these crowded shopping streets become ghost streets, and it's a very difficult task for cities to make these places in the very heart of each city vivid again. This is the existing and since 5 or 6 years closed Galeria Kaufhof, same as in your plot. I just quickly show you, because we had to work on both sides. This is, as it was just an urban competition, it's just we had to provide rough floor plans and a volume study. You can see that the site obviously is too small. We tried to compose these boxes to have use to the park and to the city. But the interesting plot for us is the second one. And you can see here the department store. Along this main shopping street, am Wehrhahn, which becomes Schadowstraße, which in this area also is a pedestrian shopping street. And so this is the, let's say, the golden corner of the former department store, but also for the Opera House, the main address. The site actually is not only along this main street, it's using nearly the whole block, so it has a second facade in a secondary street here, the Oststraße, where it actually houses the parking plots. Also here, parking on rooftops was very regular in the 70s for department stores, so they all have a quite stable structure because loads in department stores are very high, so the structures are quite flexible and quite robust. So this was the site. You can see again here this pedestrian part of Schadowstraße, the building, and the task was actually to use the site. So nobody said, please keep the building. They said, this is the site to see how to implement an opera house on that site. And we thought, for 2 reasons, why not keep the structure, or as much as possible. First, this was by our experience in this sustainability idea, why destroy very valid parts which can be used, and on the other side, to have this idea, what they actually ask for, to have a low threshold, an open house, easy to access, something that also fits this slightly rough and shabby shopping street, and not to build a house where you don't dare to enter and you think you have to wear a suit or a robe to go there. So that were these reasons why we thought, why not keep it? If you look closer, of course, opera stage cannot really divide it into slabs. So in fact, we had to remove a part of the construction, which is which you can see here. We also removed the spiral ramp because we needed some space, but we could use all the secondary uses and public functions. We could use the existing structure, and especially along these streets. So actually the big changes wouldn't have been visible because they are hidden inside the block. So we could enter the big stage and auditorium volume, and we put the secondary stages simply on top. As I said, these structures are quite stable for the very big stage, the studio stage, because it was too heavy. We put on the auditorium, which is a new construction, so that we could handle the structural system and not put everything on the existing structure. We also added a few floor slabs here to have a circular ring for secondary functions. You will see it later. And by doing this, we open up the house along this golden corner and try to pull the cityscape into the building and also develop it in a vertical way. I think this is also an issue for your task. You mentioned that you even can see the Alster from the rooftop. So I think this is all very interesting to activate not only F1, but to bring the public into the building so that all the floors or most of the areas also have this vividness of a public space. This is a floor plan. You can see this is the red parts are new, but here these are let's say the facade or the structure along the main streets. They are kept. They are simply these existing structures which we wanted to strip down really to the concrete shell and keep it as a very rough and open building. So you can see the main lobby is along this corner. There's the studio stage, and in the former parking garage, we have the back of the house functions. So there is the, let's say, artist and administration entrance, and also a quite tight, but we thought possible, delivery situation in the existing structure. And this is the, let's say, the building as it was, so very simple, straightforward structure. This is the shape of the stage and auditorium. We tried we did many trials to turn it in many directions. We even tried it in a 45 degrees way, we could keep most of the area, and especially also to keep the infrastructure, so the shafts, vertical transportations, and you also mentioned department stores. They have very wide escape routes for safety. So this is also quite helpful for public buildings because they have these very big escape routes, and we kept them also for the reason that in this time where you sort of cut the building, it stays stable because the cores of course guarantee the stiffness of the construction. So this is then an upper level. You can see here the lobbies where we also cut some holes in the slabs to have a more complex, vivid space. You can see down to the street or up. You can see the existing cores, which we also used again for elevators and escape. And here you can see this very simple back of the house area with the wardrobe areas, workshops, administration, and so on. This is just a section. You can see here the second stage standing not on the old construction but on the auditorium. You can see that at least it's hard to put the stage in this slab-like building, but as I said, we try to keep as much as we can. This is the Studio Bühne on top, where we have a public terrace. We have a bar here where you could even see the River Rhine, which is in the west of the site, and having this idea to have this public building. And this is quite often in German competitions. You are not allowed to do big renderings or only a so-called sketch. So we tried, it's always finding a way to show as much as you can, but not to get kicked out because you showed too much. So this was our sketch, but I think it shows quite well this idea of this rough, stripped-down building. You can see the construction of the ceiling slab, the beams, and to have this open house and also to bring the public space and also green space from the street level to the top. So there was actually, this idea competition, there was no first prize, but they had for each plot, they had 3 awards, and we won an award of these because they said this is a very interesting idea. And just to show you, these are the other award winners who, as everybody expected, teared down the department store and built a new house. Unfortunately, on the day of submission, the mayor said, anyhow, I prefer the outside. So this was a nice idea, but this at least was our approach to using in a department store. And I'm looking forward how you use your department store. Thank you.